Hello, people of the internet. Welcome to another video here on the X-Pound. This is part 2 of our Year of Starkid, celebrating the anniversary of online theater troupe Team Starkid, founded 10 years ago in 2009 at the University of Ann Arbor in Michigan, when they put out their ever-popular A Very Potter musical. 10 years later, they have gone through 11 full-length musicals, several comedy shows, tours, con appearances, everything you can imagine. And we're here to cover it in honor of that anniversary.
And Hollywood and Broadway.
Well, that too, but that's not officially part of Starkid. That's just where Starkids have gone on to.
Yeah, but it's still, the culmination of this entire Starkid endeavor.
I suppose so. At any rate, we are here to talk about a Starkid production. We're going in reverse chronological order. So last month of January, you can go back and check out our review of the latest Starkid show, The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals, which was released on YouTube back on Christmas Eve. So moving one back, we are now returning ourselves to the next earliest musical of the Starkid chronology, that being Firebringer.
Indeed.
Firebringer has the distinction of being the first female-led musical of the Starkid canon, which was, in my opinion, a bit overdue.
First female written, too.
That, too.
On both counts, on both the script and the music.
Indeed. Yes, written by Meredith Stepien and, of course, starring Lauren Lopez.
Yes, and the script was written by Julia Albane.
Oh, was it? I didn't actually realize that.
It was co-written by Julia. Obviously, it was written by Nick, because Nick.
Well, yeah.
But yes, it was co-written by Julia, and then the music was co-written by Meredith. It was Meredith, and I believe it was Meredith and Mark wrote the lyrics. And then, obviously, it was like Meredith and Clark wrote the actual music.
No, the book is by Matt Lang, Nick Lang, and Brian Holden. The music is by Meredith Stepien and Mark Swiderski. It was directed by Julia Albane and Nick Lang.
Okay, so she co-directed it. I know she did something with Nick.
Indeed.
Fair.
Costume design is always by June Sato and scenic design by Corey Lubowich. Sarah Petty was on lighting. Sound design was by Mark Swiderski and Adam Brunetti. Craig Kidwell on technical direction. Denise Donovan handled the choreography, of course, with help from Lauren herself, as usual. Stage management was Ruby Summers. Scenic painting by Amy Plouffe. The cast, of course, including well-known Starkids Lauren Lopez, Meredith Stepien, Rachel Soglin, Denise Donovan, and Joey Richter, Brian Holden, and Jamie Lynn Beatty, as well as Joe Walker, with newcomers Lauren Walker, Jamie K. Burns, and Tiffany Williams.
You forgot one cast member.
I did.
Clark Baxter, sir.
And special cameo appearance by Clark Baxter, sir.
He was in more than one scene, and he played technically himself. They credited him as himself.
Well, he's not on the cast list on their website.
Well, he's on the cast list at the end of the production.
All right, well.
It literally says Clark Baxter, sir, as himself.
I'm aware of that, but that was supposed to be part of the joke.
He was still part of the production. He still played a character named Clark, and he was in more than one scene.
He was in 2 scenes, fine.
And he had lines.
He had a few. Anyway, Firebringer is a story about a group of cave people in the distant past, and how one of those cave people, named Zazaloil, played by Laura Lopez, discovered fire, and how that discovery changed the lives of the cave people.
Fair.
Indeed. This show came out in the summer of 2016. With a variety of co-shows running at the same time, as per the usual. I don't see a theater name here, which is unfortunate. I would like to mention where it was performing. I don't see a mention of it here. Is it up here? Oh, there it is. It was at the Stage 773 in Chicago, Illinois. Ran July 6th through August 7th of 2016. So yeah, and Firebringer, they had some more gaps in between the shows for a while there because, I mean, Firebringer was the first musical to come out after Annie in Oregon, and there was like a 2 or 3 year, there was like a 2 year gap in there, I think,
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't do any musicals in 2015. So as far as I recall, because I think Annie and Oregon were 14.
Well, these things take time.
They do, although to their credit, I know the Lang brothers and the rest of Starkid had said they wanted to try to get back into a more regular schedule of musicals where they were doing one a year again. So
Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's a good idea because this kind of proved something.
what's that?
That with the right amount of time, number one, they can actually have a healthy budget, and number two, they can produce quality. Not that they haven't produced quality before, but if you look at the production quality of this production compared to pretty much any other production they've ever done, aside from like Twisted, I think is the only one that rivals it in production quality.
Mm.
Like it's unparalleled. The production quality of this production is so good, and I think it's
Well,
because they had so much time to work on it.
well, it's not just the time to work on it. It was also the fact that, like I said, this production and Twisted are the only two that the quality are they had more money than any others because they're the two that were kickstarted.
Yeah, well, that's the
And,
other thing too is they had time to actually get money because they took so long. They were just like, we're gonna throw the Kickstarter up there, let it run like over a year. Boom, we got the money we need.
it didn't run over a year. What are you talking about?
I thought it ran like close to a year. I could be wrong.
No, not even close, dude. Kickstarters are not permitted to run that long.
No, fair enough.
I don't
Either
think.
way, I just think they had enough. It shows that they actually spent their time wisely and that they actually had time to do stuff.
Well, like I said, they're always pretty good with their time, and that's what I mean. That's what was great about that. Is they're always pretty good with their time on these productions. Just in this case, because of a lot of Star Kids doing other things, a lot of them moving out of Chicago to other places,
Yeah, there's
it was
that too.
harder to organize the shows. But now that almost everybody in Star Kid is in LA in one place again, it's easier to do that.
Yeah.
So anyway, going back to Firebringer. Firebringer was also unique from previous Starkey productions with its heavy focus on rhythm in the music, stemming mostly from Meredith Stepian's experience as a bongo drummer. And
We can go into music first. Also, since you haven't mentioned it, he's Jim. I'm Geoff.
they know who the hell we are at this point.
Also, you have to forgive me. I might be coming down with something. I had a sore throat this morning, so my voice is kind of fucked up.
Yep.
Yeah, we can talk about music. It's also kind of a milestone here in music because not only did it have heavy rhythmic influences like tribal type music, which made sense considering it was set in the fucking Stone Age,
Yeah.
or birth of the Stone Age anyway. But also, and I went back and rewatched it at the beginning of this week. I don't know if you've watched it since the first time we watched it together,
I've seen it a few times.
but I noticed that this production also had another unique genre of music attached to it, and that was hip hop. It had a lot of hip hop and R&B. I was like, more hip hop than R&B, but it's like a lot of hip hop type stuff, more modern music. I was like, that's clever because it was like rap and stuff, and I was like, okay, and it worked.
Mm. Can you not sit there rubbing your nipples on camera, please?
I'm not rubbing my nipples. I'm rubbing my chest. It hurts.
Yeah. Take an expectorant decongestant. Anyway.
Yeah, so it was a nice, interesting mix of genres of music that Starkid has not dabbled in before, or since, for that matter.
Well, that's one of Starkid's things. They always like to try new things. They're very big on that. With Annie, they tried the method of the band singing all the songs instead of the performers. With this, they were a little more rhythm oriented. With the guy who didn't like musicals, it was a little bit different yet again. With going with a more where almost all the songs were ensemble, while at the same time going with that style of, the songs are supposed to be spontaneous, and so they might have seemed a little bit less polished, as we covered in the last video.
And it was more show tune-esque.
Yes, that too. But I think the songs in the show are very enjoyable. I think there is, because of that mix of genres, each one feels different and special as it goes through, and I think that's pretty cool, where you have the heavy rhythm numbers when the tribe is together, but then you've got some of the more classic Starkid show tune-esque songs like, the songs that Joey and Rachel do primarily, Just a Taste, and what's the name of the painting song?
I don't remember. But if I may, since you brought them up,
Yeah.
while you're trying to think of the name of that song, or you could just look it up on that DVD. It's probably listed. But
There's not a song listing in here. It's just like a basic
I
summary.
would have thought that's the one thing they would have put in there. Anyway,
Nah. That's a soundtrack, not a DVD.
Yeah, but usually in musicals and stuff, they do have a listing of the songs in the musical. But anyway,
How You See Me, I think is the name of that song.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Which is a great song. Everybody harmonized well in this group. Of course, it helped that most of them were classic Starkid, so they didn't have to really try to do that. They just kind of did that. But even the new people harmonized very well with the group. Jamie Burns, and I keep forgetting the other one's name. Not Lauren, the other one.
Tiffany Williams.
They harmonized very well. But I do have to say, I really did love Joey and Rachel's duets. Because I think I mentioned in the last one when we were talking about Jeff Blim how like he and Rachel Soglin usually they harmonize very well, but like when they try to sing with other people, it doesn't quite work that well because of how their voices are. But for some reason, and I don't know if it's because it's Joey fucking Richter who can harmonize with a fucking loaf of bread if he wanted to, and he'd make it sound good. But she sounds incredible with Joey. I don't know if it's because Joey's just that good that he can. I firmly believe he can harmonize with anyone, but just like hearing them together, I'm like, wow, their voices actually kind of fit together. I don't know if you.
They fit together very well. You're absolutely right, and it worked very well for those two songs. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's just that they happen to harmonize well together because of their vocal ranges or what it was, but it went very well.
See, I think it, not to impugn Rachel's prowess as a singer, because she's very good. I think a lot of it had to do with Joey because of his range, because Joey has an incredible range, singing range. And I think because of that, it makes it easy for him to harmonize with different people with different ranges, because he can just basically octave up, octave down to go into the range he needs to be to harmonize with almost anyone.
Yeah.
Because like in this one with Rachel, because Rachel has a higher register, he shifted his octave up, kind of going more into that sidekick register, and was able to harmonize with Rachel, and it sounds so good. And the songs are really, really well done.
Oh, definitely.
I like the subtlety of these songs too, because these were the love songs, but they weren't the overt Starkid love songs. There was a lot of subtlety in the lyrics.
Oh yeah, totally. And that worked well because neither of these two knew even what love was, because they were cave people who had done this thing before. So it was interesting how they were sort of experiencing love for the first time from this place of complete, not even having that experience, but not even knowing that it was a thing, and kind of trying to figure out what it was as they went through the songs. And that was pretty cool.
I also love because a lot of it was like the rhythmic, and a lot of it was like dancing kind of stuff, like with the hip hop and stuff. Like Joey actually got to show like that his education did not go to waste, since if I recall, he did graduate with a degree in dance.
Might be, I'm not sure.
I thought that's what he went to school for, was like the dance part of it. He was like a good dancer, but a lot of his stuff he doesn't really dance. But in this one, he fucking busted out, dude.
Accurate.
Like just and the dance. Since we're on the music, can we talk about the choreography? Because holy crap.
Yeah, go for it.
Choreography was so good. And
well, yeah, it was a Denise Donovan choreographed production. That kind of goes without saying.
And Lauren Lopez.
Yeah, Lauren helped.
Mostly Denise, but
yeah,
Denise is the one that got the credit for it, because I think she did most of the work. But
yeah, well, she is a professional choreographer.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's maybe like hip hop might be her thing. I don't know, because it felt the dances felt more natural than I've seen in a lot of the other ones, and it just, I don't know, felt more polished.
Well, I think part of that is also because when you're dealing with rhythm, it's very easy to coordinate dance because you're moving to the beat to the music, as opposed to something that's less rhythmic and more melodic, and you've got to kind of feel more of a flow to time the movement. Whereas with this, it's very easy because just, okay, boom, move. So you can kind of figure out what movements to do in coordination with the beat, and everybody can follow the beat to do it. So it's easy to get everybody doing the same thing. I think having that extra rhythm actually makes it a little bit, makes it easier and more fun to work with it, because you know you can get everybody on board easily and figure out what the moves are going to be.
Yeah, I think the other thing that helped too was the fact that Denise wasn't in all the dance numbers.
That too.
Because I love the little inside joke they threw in there of she played the character that quote unquote invented dance.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that in one of the numbers where she wasn't there, she kind of comes in and like criticizes their dance.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, the dance was so good. It fit the music. The music was fantastic. And can we talk about the breakout singing star of this entire production?
We can. I'm just trying to remember. Yeah, I think it was the normal. I mean, I know obviously Mark was one of the writers and Clark was there, so I'm assuming that when they weren't doing anything, they were the normal band along with the others. So I'm assuming it was a regular Starkid band. So they did a good job with the backups as usual.
Yeah, when Clark wasn't on stage, he was up on the keyboard.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it showed him up there.
Okay.
Because he had to throw a line from up there at one point, so that's how I knew he was up there. Which is funny because he played in the band completely in costume the entire time.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, Clark had on-stage presence, lines, and a costume. I would say he's a member of the cast.
All right, that's fair.
But yes, the breakout performer here has to be Jamie Burns. Because holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
That final number, just wow.
Yeah.
That voice.
Well, not final, but penultimate, yes.
Yeah, the big number. The big reveal, the twist. It's like, holy shit, that voice.
Yeah. That
wow.
was incredible.
Like, they scored big on that one.
Oh, totally. But that is what they do. I mean, Starkid meets these talented people from all walks of life, and that's how they're able to get them in.
Mm-hmm. Was there anything else you wanted to mention about the music of Firebringer?
Nothing off the top of my head.
All right. Well, we can go into the characters, which I thought I love just the variance in characters.
Okay.
I thought Lauren Walker, I thought that part was perfect for her. I thought she was hilarious. Although, because they were having her do double duty as the narrator and as an actual character, although that character was narrating, it made it sometimes a little difficult to kind of pin down the time frame. In my opinion, like just kind of what was actually going on.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the point. I don't know.
Maybe.
But I thought that role was perfect for her. I thought she was great.
Yeah. You know, all the new people did a really good job.
Yeah. I will say, and this would probably be my only criticism of the entire thing, since we're talking about characters, we could talk about the costumes and stuff too, which were fantastic. Yeah. The only complaint I have, the only criticism I have is Chorn's costume at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that's only because I saw the Starkid stuff afterwards where they, were like, they talked about it. Mm-hmm. When people asked them questions on like streams and stuff later. And the fact that they revealed that the whole inspiration for the Chorn character was Gozer the Gozerian from Ghostbusters. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you hadn't revealed that, I would not have had a problem with the costume. The minute you revealed that, I was like, okay, now I hate the costume. Thanks, Nick. Because I'm like, I don't like the ruffles and stuff on it. I'm like, if you're trying to go for Gozer the Gozerian, ditch the ruffles and just glitterize it. That's all you have to do, especially with the way they lit the entire production, which I would like to add, the lighting in this production was fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
But with the way they lit it, and especially that scene where it's like a spotlight on her, fucking just glitterize her costume. It'll sparkle like it's supposed to.
Yep.
But no, they gave her like all kinds of ruffles. It's just like, it did not look good in my opinion. It looked half-assed the way it was done. Mm-hmm. Especially when you compare it to the other costumes in the entire production, how intricate like Meredith's costume was or Clark's costume was. You look at the intricacies there, and then you look at that Charm costume, you're like, wow, did you run out of time and just had to half-ass something? Like, what the hell?
I don't know.
I don't know if you agreed with that assessment or if you thought it was fine, but
I agree. I wasn't totally thrilled by the costume. I have to go back and look at it now because I remember them mentioning it was inspired directly by something in a movie, and now you reminded me what it was. So, yeah, I agree. It doesn't quite line up. I mean, I don't think it was bad. It didn't upset me when I watched it. Except for me to agree that, I think maybe that costume wasn't quite up to par with the rest of them, but
which is too bad because the makeup was fantastic.
Yeah, that worked very well.
But yeah, that'd probably be my only criticism of the entire production is just that. I'm just like, oh. I thought all the characters were great. I thought they played their roles well, and again, Joey playing the innocent outsider, which I thought was perfect for him.
Yep, that worked very well. Now we're talking about costume design. Let's talk about the set design a little bit.
Sure.
I like what they did with some of the set stuff here to really work in some of the pieces, but be minimalistic about it. In certain areas, for example, I like what they did where they had the they had Snarl, the tiger, but they got him across by only having paws and the head instead of getting a whole big tiger suit.
I like the fact that they designed the sets in a way that they could use it for shadow puppetry. I thought that was brilliant.
Well, that too.
I thought these were the best sets they've ever done because they had that, and they for the first time ever in the history of Starkid, they built a set that they could interact with, where they had trees painted on the set, but behind them they had ladders so they could climb
on the trees. Like that was really good.
Like the set design was totally brilliant. Like Corey Lubowich completely outdid himself with this one.
He totally did, and like I said, in terms of the costume design, not just and that tiger was really good that they were able to get the whole tiger across with just the fancy head and the paws, and at the same time, the same thing they did with the mammoth in the other scene was a similar thing, and it worked really well. So that between the interactive sets, it really gave a sense of them being able to do a lot in the environment and interact with these creatures without having a lot there. And in particular, I think the Night Belongs to Him sequence really displays that better than any.
Yes. Also, Golden singing. Holy crap.
Yeah, we know he's a good singer. I mean, that's not new.
Yeah, but he rarely gets the big, like, the song where he has to carry it. And just that song just was... I'm just giving props to Brolden. That was a damn good song. He did really good.
Yeah, I props to Tiffany Williams, who also carried that song with him.
Yeah. I also think, though, that the puppets are probably among the best puppets they've ever done.
Oh, yeah,
highly
definitely.
Detailed. I think a lot of that credit to budget. They actually had a budget.
Yeah, because the Firebringer Kickstarter was a huge success, and so they were able to really afford to upscale a lot of this stuff. I think there was only like 1 or 2 stretch goals they didn't meet. They raised almost everything they wanted to, both the regular goal and the stretch goals.
Yeah. And so talking about all this stuff, the best part of the entire production, the fire effect. My God, that was so good.
Well, that was important. They even emphasized in the Kickstarter that they wanted to do something better than, and I quote, Lauren waving orange paper around, which was literally how they did the fire scene for the Trail to Oregon when the wagon is on fire song that ends the first act is Lauren running out with big orange streamers and going like this in front of the wagon,
which worked.
It did, but I like they went through the effort to do this newer fire effect to really make that work out.
I will say the thing that surprised me, though, is, like, oh, we want to make the fire good, blah, blah, blah. And then, early on it's established, okay, Lauren's the Firebringer, so she's got the fire. I didn't expect them to make one for every fucking cast member. I was like, that blew my mind. I was like, wow, you had the budget for that?
Oh, yeah.
That just made it 10 times better. Like, wow, so you can actually get big, like, group fire effect of, like, burning stuff. I'm like, that is amazing.
Also, one thing I've always wanted to ask, because I almost have to wonder, when they do that, the repeated, especially the first time the fire comes out, and they do the repeated shtick of Lauren touching it, and then the other Lauren telling her, don't touch it, I almost have to wonder if, like, that came about from Lauren improving touching the fire, because just the way she does it, it seems so casual. Like, I could imagine, like, that scene and her just doing that as a joke and them all laughing, and then improving that entire exchange from there and making it a running joke.
That would fit in the theme of Starkid.
Yeah.
And actually, since we're talking about fire, that does remind me of a very minor criticism I have here.
Okay.
Because they did the extravagance with the fire, making multiple, fire things so everyone could hold one. Yet they couldn't be bothered actually giving Joe a fire head. What the hell? They couldn't have just stuck one of those on top of his crown? No. I mean, come on. You made like fucking 10 of those. You couldn't make one for a damn hat, really?
Yeah. I think the problem is, I can only imagine, because looking at that fire, it looks really cool, but I can also imagine looking at it that there's a little weight to it, and I feel like that would have been really difficult to keep balanced on his head without falling over.
True, they could have done something different, just something that so they could light up his hat or something. Just a little small effect. They didn't have to take the entire fire torch and dump it on his head. I agree, that probably would have been a little heavy.
Well, I don't know about the YouTube version, but in this version, there's a literal special effect put in of fire.
Yes, it is on the YouTube version, but that's an editing effect. That's not a live effect. They had to do that because they didn't have the live effect. I'm like, but you had the live effect for everything else. You couldn't do a live fire effect for his hat. And maybe, I'm not a costume specialist. Maybe that would have been incredibly hard to do. But from where I stand, I'm like, it shouldn't be that much harder than making the torch. That's all I'm saying.
Well, it's not hard about making it. It's about the fact that the weight of that would not have stayed on Joe's head. It would have been hard for him to carry upright. He would have had to hold it like this to stop it going like this.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Do a different effect. Maybe just something where the rim of the hat lights up or something.
Maybe. I think the idea was supposed to be, when they put it on, that the part that was sticking up was supposed to be the fire. I think that was supposed to be the intended effect, and they just enhanced it in post. But
yeah.
Anyway,
like I said, minor.
Yeah, minor. That's fair enough. But either way, those scenes did work well. I also really liked going into the performances for a second.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the way they worked in Lauren Walker's character by having her be the narrator, but then also seamlessly step in and out of the scenes. I always like it when productions do that, where you have a narrator that's telling you what's going on, but then also gets in the scenes when they need to. I think it worked really well.
Yep. I also love the fact that they came up with a reason for the character not to be there to set up the whole Firebringer peacekeeper thing.
Yeah.
Yet, and that entire reason also gave her the reason to be the narrator. So I thought that was kind of clever what they did.
Yeah, it worked very well. Speaking of her character, I don't know if you know about or have feelings about the slight change that was made at the end.
What change?
In regards to the point when Lauren Walker's character comes back at the end.
Okay.
Right before the finale number.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know about that change.
I do not.
Okay. So, in the and Nick Lang mentioned this somewhere along the way, but in the original version, when they first started doing the show on stage, there's a line that was not in there. And after getting feedback from some audiences, after a few audiences saw it and talked to them, the feedback was there was apparently a lot of some confusion on the part of the audience as to what was going on in the Chorn scene.
Mm.
I mean, there was an understanding that, okay, Chorn is an alien, but when Chorn did the head touch thing and people started having seizures, some of the audience members got confused as to what was going on. And then they were like, hypnotized like zombies, which is why they added the line later in the production to explain it for later shows. When Lauren Walker's character comes back, they amended the line. I believe the line was just supposed to be, when she comes back, she's like, I walked on the water. Guess what? It's a circle. And they were just supposed to reply, we know. And then they go into the scene. But because of the confusion, they expanded that line to be, we know. Chorn told us with its mind. And that's why they added that line in there to better explain what was going on in the Chorn scene, because people were confused. And I think that certainly was helpful. It doesn't hurt the production to have it in there, and it helps for people who might not understand the scene. So I think it's definitely worthwhile.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Although I don't get how people wouldn't understand what's going on when she outright says in the preceding scene, "I'm an alien that gave you fire."
Well, yeah, that part was understood. It was when she touched their heads and they started having seizures that nobody understood what was going on. That
But
particular.
doesn't she actually say right before she touches them, "I'm going to give you the gift of knowledge"?
Something that general effect, but it was vague and metaphor-y.
I suppose. I
So
don't know.
they just
I kind of got it, but I'm going to give you the gift of knowledge. Boom. Oh, okay. She's giving them knowledge by touching their heads and giving them knowledge. Fair. Okay.
yeah. So I think some people were just a little confused by that. So they straightened it
That's
out, and
fair.
I think it worked. It did what it needed to do, and I think that helped.
So, oh, go ahead.
No, I'm gonna say overall, I think the production worked well, and I think everybody got to shine in their different ways, and I think that it all came together really well to make an incredible show, and I think it's great that we got to have that show.
Absolutely, and that brings us to the final part of the show.
Oh, here, I think for the people, there's the fire effect we were referring to earlier.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. It's the best effect they've ever done.
It's a good effect.
But now, and there's a reason I wanted to keep this for the last thing we talk about.
Okay.
It's about to get serious up in this bitch.
Okay.
Because now we're going to talk about the story.
Okay.
It's about to get socio-political up in this bitch.
Uh-oh.
But first off, I just want to say I thought the story was good. To basically encompass the entire production, I want to say it took me until the second viewing, the one I just had this
week,
this last week, which, yes, this was in fact only the second time I've seen it since the first time we saw it. But it's taken me until the second viewing to actually appreciate this production.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first time I saw it, I wasn't really too keen on it.
Mm-hmm.
I like it a lot more, and I appreciate the music a lot more in this one. Mm-hmm. Now, the second time I've seen it. But I thought the story was good. I thought there was a lot of clever stuff in there. The jokes were clever. I would like to rescind one thing I said in the previous review of this.
Okay.
Shroopsy's not annoying.
Mm.
Like, after watching it the second time, I'm like, okay, she's not that annoying.
No, she's not. It's just Jamie Lynn getting to be some of the comedy relief, and
yeah.
No,
she completely worked. I guess, I don't know. Like I said, maybe because I wasn't too into it, just further took me out of it at the time.
Maybe.
But yeah, like having watched it the second time, I'm like, okay, no, the character actually kind of works. She's not that annoying. But yeah, I rather enjoyed the story. I'll let you talk about the story first, and then we'll go into the heavy stuff.
Okay. I did enjoy the story. For those that don't know, I won't spoil anything, but the general premise is that it features a tribe of cave people who are being led by Jamila, the peacekeeper, played by Meredith Stepien, who has recently taken over from Lauren Walker's character,
Olag,
the War Maker. And effectively, Olag goes off on a world journey and leaves Jamila in charge, but reveals to Jamila a few untruths that have been used to keep the tribe in line. Namely, that the duck guarded by Ducker, Joe Walker's character, is not, in fact, the god that created the universe, and is not, in fact, a special duck. And also that Tiffany Williams' character, and I don't remember her name, but that her character is not, in fact, holding up the sky.
Right.
And this leads to some and once Jamila reveals this and attempts to try to lead the tribe, she comes into conflict with Lauren's character, Zazalil, who believes in taking risks to try to find new and inventive ways to make the tribe's life easier and to advance their knowledge and their ability to survive. Jamila is bigger on keeping people safe and avoiding danger at all costs and sticking with what works. And this leads them into frequent conflict with each other.
It should also be noted that Zazalil's ultimate goal is to be lazy, as she herself says in the production.
Yeah, that's her song about about humans invent things so they can be lazy, and it's not wrong.
No.
I mean, hell, I'm talking on this right now because we invented this so that we could speak to each other without having to travel across the country.
Thank you, man.
But yes, and so after one night when they come into conflict during a night when they're hiding in their cave to avoid Snarl, the large saber-toothed tiger that they are always afraid will eat them, Zazalil, in a fit of rage at still hiding in a wet cave and Jamila holding their tribe back, in her opinion, storms off, and in the course of the night's events, ends up discovering fire and determining that the dangerous Snarl is afraid of it, which leads the tribe to turn on Jamila and side with Zazalil and believe that she's the better leader. And unfortunately, as Act 2 goes on, we find out that while Zazalil is better in some ways, she's worse off than Jamila in a lot of other ways. And when a situation happens where one of the tribe members is taken by Snarl, Zazalil and Jamila have to reconcile their differences and put them aside in order to save that tribe member and bring the tribe as a whole together and move them forward.
It should also be noted, Zazalil doesn't discover fire. She is given fire because a photon shot is shot from the ship and hits the stick. She doesn't discover fire until the end of the production when she sees the spark when the rock bounces off the wall.
That's fair.
That's when she discovers fire.
That's fair.
So yeah, what did you think of the story?
I thought the story was well done. I thought it did a good job of pitting the two sides against each other and showing why both, both taking dangerous risks and being safe when possible are equally important. Because while Jamila was holding them back from discoveries like Zazalil previously inventing the spear so they could hunt animals for food and not have to try to fight the animals for nuts and berries that they scavenge. This was a good invention, and Jamila shut it down because she thought that it was dangerous and was hindering the tribe. At the same time, while Zazalil was great at going forward, she was terrible at responsibility, and the tribe ended up inadvertently wiping out the mammoths, at least the ones in the area, and poisoning their own water supply because they weren't being careful, in addition to burning their village down.
Yeah.
So it really displayed why both of their perspectives were important. Be willing to take risks like Zazalil sometimes, but not to the point that you're going to hurt themselves, where Jamila can kind of keep them safe. So it showed that real importance. And it also did a good job of showing other plot lines, like the importance of bringing in other people to your tribe, like when Joey's character showed up and Rachel's character fell in love with him and they needed to bring him in, and that was good. And also just the tribe's fear of the saber-toothed tiger and overcoming that, showing that as humans, they were evolving to be master over animals and not the other way around, being predator instead of prey. So overall, the story did a really good job of showing both Jamila and Zazalil why each of their sides was important and why they needed each other, and really bringing the tribe together, and that's pretty cool. And because at the end of the production of what happens with Jamila and Zazalil, that's also a great message for equality and women's empowerment throughout the show also.
It's interesting you mentioned that.
Okay.
I agree with everything you've said.
Mm-hmm.
However, I came to a realization watching it the second time just because of when I watched it.
Okay.
If this had come out today, I don't think it would have been as well received. In fact, I would go so far as to say I think a rather large part of the Starkid fan base would turn on them, just based on the socio-political climate of today.
I don't think so.
I do, just because with everything that's been happening around like women empowerment, with the rights of like the SJWs and all that crap, and just basically right now, if you look at media and entertainment, all the kind of backlash and kind of negativity surrounding like pushing the female agenda, if you will, I could see a lot of people basically just kind of lambasting and bashing Starkid for that, saying, oh, you're jumping on that hype train, you're trying to push an agenda, blah, 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 which I don't think they were trying to do. I think certainly they put some of the messages in there because, let's be honest, I think some of the Starkid female members are like activists or whatever, and that's fine, and we've known that, right? Feminists, whatever, because like it's kind of obvious, but that's okay. And I think, it's kind of cool that they put it in there, but I think it's a product of its time, because I think when it came out, it was more acceptable for that because people didn't look at that kind of stuff through a negative lens like they do now, which is why I think if they come out now, I don't think it would have been as positively received.
See, I disagree because I think the Starkid fans are the exact kind of group of people that are open to this sort of thing. And they would have been very receiving of it in either way. And I think maybe even more so now in this environment, they're willing to take that risk and put that out there because, quite frankly, I think there, like I said, there's two sides. I think there are an equal number of people that don't see it as a female agenda and don't label it as SJW just because people happen to have empathy and care about groups other than themselves. And I think that Star Kids fans generally fall into that group, and I think that they would have been very accepting of that message.
And that's a possibility. I don't know either way. I just kind of get this thing, just like I said, based on how basically the mass populace is reacting to other things in current culture. I'm like, I regardless, I still think it was better that they introduced it, that they did it at that point than now. I don't think it would have been as positively received now as it was back then. That's
I mean,
not to say it would have been completely negatively received. I just think, it would have been tougher for it to be a success now just because of what they put in there. And they put in a lot too, because they put in like lesbian couple, they put in monogamy, and the fact that it's the woman who's monogamous. Like there was a lot of, albeit sometimes subtle, but there was a lot of like female empowerment and like feminist overtones in this production. But it was balanced, I think, by a lot of the other messages they were trying to send, which is why I think it's a balanced production, and I don't have a problem with it. I could see other people saying, "Oh no, you're jumping on that train. You're trying to push an agenda, blah blah blah." It's like the whole, because as you pointed out, there's a lot of things in this production that we still do today that they were trying to bring awareness to, and I thought they did a good job with it, like the killing off of all the mammoths, and so we're basically like killing off our own food supply, the poisoning of the well due to waste. Like we're doing that even to this day, poisoning the environment due to the overwhelming waste that humanity has created. Right.
Yep.
So there's a lot of good stuff there. I just think if it had come out today, a lot of that would have been overshadowed by the feminist overtones in the other half of the production, the other half of the messages they were putting out there. And I don't think that's through any fault of theirs. I think it's just how society is today because of what's led us to today.
I get that, but I also think that I think you're overestimating how many people feel that way, because being the most vocal populist does not necessarily make you. I should say. Let me correct that. Being the most vocal group doesn't make you the biggest group. Let me put it that way.
No, it doesn't. But I would also argue that the group that's going against this is big enough to basically push Hollywood around. So what does that say?
I don't think they're big enough. I think one movie tanking does not necessarily say that they're pushing Hollywood around exactly.
Well, 2 movies tanked, and yeah, Captain Marvel does not look like it's going to do well, even if it's a good movie.
Captain Marvel's going to do just fine. Trust me.
We'll see about that.
We will. We'll touch upon that later. But I think Captain Marvel's going to do just fine. And in all fairness, at least one, if not both of those movies were not good movies to begin with outside of any messaging.
This is true.
I mean, there were other problems with those movies besides that, but the point being
that is true.
But the point being, sticking to this, I think it's a message worth putting out there, and I think it's important to remember that feminist is pro women, not anti men.
Right, which is what the feminists are trying to say. It's the hyper feminists and the extremists that are taking it further, and the feminists are like, no. But that's a topic for another discussion.
Yeah, there's some. I think the problem is that they're looking in a direction of, they've been fighting so hard for so long for equality that some of them are looking in the direction of, if it's impossible for us to move any further on moving women's rights up to get to an equal point, we'll move men's rights down to get to that equal point.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of the
well,
that's actually a very good way of explaining it, Jim. I agree with that assessment.
But anyway, interesting note going back to Firebringer, though. Let me tell you something that I heard somewhere, and I don't remember where, so please nobody quote me on this, but this is the story that I heard.
Yeah.
That entire plot line regarding Zazzle and Jamila was not supposed to happen.
Really?
Really. That wasn't supposed to happen because Meredith wasn't originally supposed to be in the show.
Oh, but she was just going to do the music for it?
Correct. She was going to do the music and play the bongos and maybe a little bit here and there. But the character, my understanding was that the character of Jamila was actually supposed to be Jamil and played by a guy.
Oh.
And it was supposed to be played by, what the hell's his name? He's in Twisted.
Robert Mannion?
No, not Romanian. The other guy. The guy with the mustache to play the genie and the Sultan.
Nick Gage, the bassist?
Yeah, I think I believe I heard that. I think it was Nick Gage was supposed to play that role of Jamil. I think it was Nick Gage. It was either him or Eric Congale, but I don't think Eric Congale's ever done the on-stage stuff. So,
Okay, well, Nick Gage was there. Like I said, he was the bassist. He was there the whole time.
okay, well then I don't know, but there was something. Maybe they changed it last minute. I don't know, but there was something going on that and again, don't quote me on the story, but there was something about somebody was the character was supposed to be. It might be mentioned in the featurette on this DVD. I don't remember. I'll double check it. But there was a story about how the character was supposed to be Jamil and was going to be a male character, and then somewhere along the way, either the actor couldn't do it or there was some kind of change that was forced through. And so, being that Meredith had written the lyrics and knew everything, they put her in the role and made it Jamila, and that's why they ended up with the scene at the end the way it was.
Fair.
That's why there's some slight, if you notice, I think there's some slight awkwardness to the scene with Clark later, because Jamil gets in there, and then I think that's why Clark randomly got stuck in as Clark, because I think it was supposed to be a situation where the male Jamil would have ended up moving to the Neanderthal tribe, and then with Jamie Lynn Beatty's character of the female Neanderthal with the children, and that was going to be the extent of the scene. But because it ended up being Jamil, they had to add in another male character otherwise it would have been, a little more heavy-handed on the lesbianism than I think they intended it to be. Because otherwise it would have been just her going in with the wife of Jamie Lynn, and then going back to Zazalil. So I think they added in they decided to add in the character of Clark and didn't have a character name for him because the plans they just called him Clark. And that's why he just shows up randomly shirtless and does the scene as being one of the guys in the Neanderthal tribe. But there's still Jamie Lynn Beatty's character there. And they explained it as, they're all married to each other.
So because they had to change everything, they introduced monogamy into the play when it was never supposed to be there. Or not monogamy, polygamy into the play when it was not supposed to be there.
Something like that, yeah.
If that's the case, then it might be a safe assumption to say that Clark's costume was Jamil's costume.
I would not be surprised if that were the case.
Interesting.
Yeah, like I said, I'll double check the featurette. I can't remember if it was that or if it was in a stream somewhere, but it got mentioned somewhere along the way. I don't remember. I thought they said it was Nick Gage who was going to be in the role, but it might have been somebody else, because I'm thinking it might have been Eric Congale, because I feel like there was somebody with 3 names. If not him, then maybe Nicholas Strauss, Matasia, I don't remember. But somebody was supposed to play Jamil, and I don't remember who it was. And I remember that being the story of why that ended up the way it was.
Yeah, because I know Nick Gage was credited as the bassist of the band, so I can only assume he was there the whole time.
Okay, then it probably wasn't him then. I'm probably getting mixed up. It was somebody else then.
It might have been Eric Congale.
Yeah, I don't think it might have been. I don't think he's ever done any stage stuff with him. I think he's always worked behind the scenes. But like I said, I'll try to check the featurette in here again and see if I can figure out what that was, because I'm not totally sure.
Fair. That would have been interesting to have that a male character, actually.
Yeah.
I think it worked out well the way it was, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they put a lot into this. A lot of, like I said, a lot of different aspects of society today, trying to draw awareness to certain things and inside jokes and stuff like that. I thought it was a very clever production.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially if they have to change things on the fly like that, or like at the last minute, they did a good job.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a great show overall, and it's definitely worth checking out if you have the opportunity. It is on YouTube for free. You can go check that out. The DVD is also available. You can pick that up on Starkid Store over at Ann Arbor Tees.
I assume they have a soundtrack available as well.
They do also have a soundtrack available. You can pick that up over on iTunes, as well as I think on Amazon.
Probably. Or at their store, right?
I'm not sure if there's a physical CD for that one. I don't know.
For Amazon, it would not surprise me if there wasn't.
I mean for Ann Arbor Tees.
Oh, might be a digital download.
Yeah, I don't know. They don't know. They don't always put the soundtracks on their store. A lot of times they're just on iTunes, Bandcamp, Amazon.
That's fair.
Some of the earlier ones, yes, were usually on their store, but that's because they were selling both digital and the physical CDs. But since they stopped doing the physical stuff, I don't think they're putting the digital stuff on Ann Arbor anymore. But I could be wrong.
That's fair.
Where is it to find out? Let's see, get the music. Yeah, the link for original cast sound recording goes right over to iTunes. So
Fair.
whereas a digital download goes over to Ann Arbor Tees for the movie. So I'm going to assume the soundtrack is not on Ann Arbor Tees.
Fair enough. It's a good soundtrack. I recommend it.
Yes, definitely. You will enjoy it.
Absolutely. Well, that was Firebringer. We both absolutely love it. We both recommend it. So
Yes.
give it a watch, especially if you're a Starkid fan. And if not, it has a really high production value.
It does. Yeah, definitely check that out. So, and as I said, it was a very big, it's a very good way to bring Starkid back from having not done anything in a couple of years, and I think it really brought that back. And then, luckily, when Firebringer came out, and then and technically Firebringer was kind of almost because Spies Are Forever had been done by the Take Care brothers just like 6 months prior, so there was at least some activity of some of the members of Starkid going on, and then this came out, which piggybacked on that. And that kind of set them up for that whole, okay, we're doing the seasons thing again. Because then last year they were able to take kind of a break off, but they were working on some other things and Tin Can did some things. And then this year they managed to get back into it and do the guy who didn't like musicals. So that's working out.
Yeah.
And of course, this year I don't think they're going to have a new musical, but they're doing whatever's related to the 10th anniversary of Harry Potter musical, which is the same reason we're celebrating with this video series. So we'll see whatever that pans out to be.
Yeah, we're assuming based on the one thing that Nick has said that he's basically going to do the one thing he said he's wanted to do, but they've never been able to get around to do it. Which, as you pointed out, now that they're all basically in one place, he could probably do it, and that is he always wanted to remake a Harry Potter musical, which would be awesome if he does that. And if they go on tour, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, they've been very hesitant to go on tours again. There's been live streams where at one point like Brian Holden said something about tour out of hand randomly, and the chat started freaking out. And somebody sitting there near Brian, I can't remember if it was Joey Richter, but somebody was like, maybe it was Meredith, but I don't. They were sitting there and somebody said, "Oh, Brian said the T word. They're going crazy." So I think the problem is it was so expensive and such a big deal to do those tours that they've been hesitant to do another one. Just because all the effort it does take the cost to rent the buses to, because they don't have a consistent income because they're kickstarting the shows and then they'll have whatever profit from the previous shows. So it can be difficult to save enough to do that. I mean, that said, I think if they kickstarted the tour, I think they could easily pay for it. But
oh yeah, easily.
And that would be kind of what they would do. And I think that that would be an interesting way to do it. But because of the cost of buses, the gas and getting around, having to, haul the equipment, the cost of merchandise, to bring around with them, all the other stuff they'd have to do. And of course, getting everyone involved that would need to be in the show, and especially for that show, because there's 30 cast members in that show.
Yeah. So that's the original show. We don't know what they would do with the remake of the show.
Right. Well, that's the question: is would they cut it down? What would they do?
No, they wouldn't cut it down. If anything, they'd expand it with the new cast members they've picked up along the way.
I don't think there will be enough room to work them all in, though, because their characters were intentionally introduced in the later musicals, and I think it would drastically change the original to work all those people in. I don't think they're going to try to play it off as the way they did for the their big return to Ann Arbor or a big anniversary or anything, like when they did senior year and they got everybody back. It's not going to be on that level. But I would think they'll maybe, they'll get the absolute dozen most important people they have to have for the show and then fill in what they can. Like they'll get Darren, Joey, they'll have Meredith probably continuing to play Hermione. They'll get Dylan for Dumbledore. They'll have Joe Walker for Voldemort. They'll have Lauren for Draco. And they'll have Joe Moses for Snape, and that's the essential 7. Oh, and Jamie Lynn Beatty for Ginny. Those are the essential 8 roles you have to have. Beyond that, you can kind of fib around with it a little bit. I mean, if they can get if they could get Brunsman to show up to do Cedric, all the better. But I think they could get away. They could get around that if they had to.
Yeah, Brunsman would probably show them. They need to get Devin Lytle. Which should be easier considering BuzzFeed doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, did that go under? Okay.
That's what I heard. I could be wrong, but I heard it either went under or was going under, and that was a couple months ago. They were saying, yeah, BuzzFeed is dying. I'm like, oh.
Fair enough. Yeah, they could get Devin Lytle back in there. That would be good. But we'll see. It depends on how many they can get in there and what they can pull off. Because it was a big cast in the original, and it would be. I think. I mean, they could do it, but it would be very difficult to get that whole cast. Because
Mhm.
I mean, just to have 7 cast members and the band to go on for the previous 2 tours, they needed 2 buses. They'd have to get 3 for that size of a production. It would be very expensive.
Yeah. But like you said, if they do a Kickstarter, and then of course they'd also be selling tickets to the thing, I think they would more than make back what they put into it.
I would think so too, but the other concern of planning this would be where they would tour, because
Yeah.
this is like a once in a lifetime thing. So I think
Mhm.
if they were going to do this, they would have to make it a global tour and not just a U.S. tour, because there are so many international
Yes.
Starkid fans that would be so pissed off and disappointed that they didn't get to see this.
Yeah,
So
I would
at the,
say America, Canada, and like UK.
I would say that I'd say at the very least UK. I would say, if not. If not a good portion of Europe, I would say at the very least maybe hit like UK, France, Germany, and bleh, brain not working. Um, just complete.
I mean, but
Oh, maybe do one in Italy. That's yeah.
well, where have they gone in Europe? Because I thought they've only ever been to the UK. I didn't think they were ever on mainland Europe.
No, they've been to the UK. They went to Germany once, I think.
Oh, okay.
But generally speaking, even not, there are Starkids in these countries that have for 10 years been begging them to come to their country. Oh,
Fair.
I know. And the other big, they have to go to Australia. That's the other.
Yeah, in Australia.
They have a big Australian fan base, especially thanks to you know who.
Yeah. Well, I would say what they could do is anything outside of the US, maybe anything outside of US or Canada, make those stretch goals. Say, we
Maybe.
get this amount of money, we'll go to this country. We get this amount of money, we'll do this, so that they can actually raise the money they need to go to said countries.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see where it goes. But it'll definitely be interesting to see what they get done. And I'm sure whatever it is, they'll record a version of it and put it online for everybody to see. So that'll at least be an option. At any rate, let's go ahead and wrap this up because we're officially into March now, on my time zone anyway.
Fair.
This has been a look at Firebringer.
Great production.
Great production indeed. Stay tuned for next month's Year of Starkid video when we are going to do Trail to Oregon.
All right.
Because technically speaking, on that summer when they did both, Annie aired on the first night, Oregon the second. So therefore, Annie came first. So we'll do Oregon first because we're going in reverse order.
Fair.
So we'll cover Trail to Oregon next week, next month rather. And stay tuned for that and more wonderful Year of Starkid. Let us know what you think. And of course, do follow Starkid over at Team Starkid on Twitter, Starkid Potter on Facebook because they're stuck under their own name on there. You can also follow the real Team Starkid on Tumblr, which of course makes them sound like the fake Team Starkid. And of course, their website, teamstarkid.com, has info about all their music goals, their cast members. You can find their soundtracks, DVDs, merch, all that good stuff on there. So check that out.
Also, go subscribe to their YouTube channel, Team Starkid.
That too. Definitely subscribe on YouTube.
And then you can go see all their productions for free.
Yes, all the musicals are on YouTube. The comedy shows are not. And a lot of the and if you just search YouTube in general, you'll find most of the convention appearances. The only things you really won't find out there, like I said, on their channel or otherwise, are the 2 tours, the shows from the tours, although you might find clips, and also the like I said, the comedy shows where there are little clips here and there, but the whole shows haven't been put out. Those are available on DVD, the tours and the comedy shows. You can buy those on the Team Starkid store at Ann Arbor Tees.
Fair.
So check all that out. So I've been James Phoenix. He's been Geoff. And we will see you next time for more great Starkid stuff. And of course, we will see you on Saturday for our usual wrestling shenanigans. So join us for that as well.
Oh, there are shenanigans.
Yeah. This is going to be a fun week. We'll see you next time, folks.